And welcome back, everybody. Jim Crane with you once again. Today on Looking at Leather, we're going to take a look at a new product from one of my favorite companies, the Leather Shop in Seattle, Washington. There are a few reviews of their products on this channel. The original product that I purchased was 4 or 5 years ago. It was this bag, the original version of this bag, the Heirloom Messenger. This is the Heirloom Messenger 2. It uses a lot of the cues from the original bag, but there are a lot of improvements on it, and we'll go over those. When I first purchased the Heirloom Messenger 4 or 5 years ago, I thought it was an utterly fantastic bag. I didn't think there was any way that anybody could make any improvements on it, but they have, and we'll go over those improvements. By now you're probably well familiar with the original Heirloom Messenger. It's a pretty famous bag now, but we'll go over the improvements and I'll let you see. We'll explore this bag in depth. So the Heirloom Messenger 2, first of all, it's made from a beautiful bridal leather. It's vegetable tanned leather. We're not using any of that chrome tan stuff. Vegetable tan leather always starts out a little bit on the stiff side, and then as you use it, it slowly becomes softer as you break it in. It actually takes several years to break in vegetable tan leather. It's not something that's going to happen over the course of several weeks or months, even if you use it all the time, every day. It just takes a while to kind of break down the vegetable tan leather so that it becomes a little bit softer. So they use a beautiful American-sourced veg-tanned leather. The entire bag is made using vegetable tanned leather. This bag comes in 2 colors. It comes in this color, which they call tan, and it's actually kind of more of a ruddy color, but they call it tan. And it also comes in kind of a natural, undyed vegetable tan leather as well, which is a very light tan. This is all hand dyed. They use a beautiful aniline dye. This is not something that they spray paint in a booth. This is all hand applied, hand finished when it comes to the color on the bag. Okay, so there are little color variations around, as you can see. It's not just one uniform color, and that's because this is an aniline dye, which aniline dyes don't really have pigments in them like car paint or spray paint, and so the dye is taken up by the leather, and that determines what the end kind of finish or color will be. So this is the Heirloom Messenger 2, the original one. My original bag came in this color. When I first got it, it was this color, but I've been using that bag for years now, and it has begun to kind of mellow in color with use. This is my original bag that I purchased 4 or 5 years ago, and it's kind of softened up a little bit. The color is kind of mellowed down a little bit. There's been a lot of exposure to the elements with this bag. Still looks utterly fantastic. Nothing wrong with it at all. I can continue to use it for another dozen or so years, and I'm sure it would be just as fine, just as good a condition. But it has kind of mellowed with usage and exposure to the elements and such. And now it's kind of this just kind of soft or softer version. The colors are muted, and I just absolutely love this bag. The brasses have begun to kind of matte out. They're not as shiny as they once were. So it's got this nice lived-in, used look. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this bag. I have used and used and used this bag. It is still, the integrity of it is still perfect. So the replacement now, this one, the Heirloom Messenger 2. Let's go over the construction, the build, the improvements. We've got a great shoulder strap. The Leather Shop always gives you a very generous shoulder strap. This shoulder strap that comes with the bag, you can use if you're 7 feet tall or if you're 4.5 feet tall, anywhere in between. So you don't need to order, like from other companies, a longer shoulder strap or a shorter one. This one will accommodate virtually anybody who's going to carry this bag. Okay, so it does have a sizing, a buckle for sizing. We've got brass keepers here. The ends of the shoulder strap are now reinforced with this brass plate. that is very nicely formed on the ends here. Okay, that's an improvement over the original Heirloom messenger that did not have those. In conjunction with that, we now also have a brass reinforcement over the anchor point for the shoulder strap, and the D-rings are now bigger and thicker than they were on the original Heirloom messenger. So there are some makers who will employ this method of a metal reinforcement for the shoulder strap attachment. Most of those people put this metal piece, which is generally stainless steel, underneath this leather keeper here, this leather anchor point. And so you have the D-ring making direct contact with the leather or with the metal reinforcement. Nothing wrong with that at all. The only somewhat downside is that you have metal to metal contact, and so it kind of makes a clinking sound. And some people, when they're leaving the office at the end of the day, they want to do it stealthily. They don't want their bag making a lot of noise, and that does kind of make a little noise when you have the metal to metal contact. So they chose to put the leather in between. Still just as strong, it's just quieter now. Okay, so you're not going to have this D-ring clanking around. So that's some of the improvements. The other improvement is on the shoulder strap. Before it was just a piece of leather, and the underside of the shoulder strap was the very smooth underside of the bridle leather. It's not a soft suede, it's a very firm texture, and that was here on the shoulder pad as well. They're now employing this kind of heavy-duty industrial strength felt pad that's on here, and this really holds on. I've loaded the bag down, I've carried it on my shoulder, and it just doesn't want to go anywhere. It's just sticking to my shoulder. So for me, that's a big pet peeve. I hate when my bag slips down off my shoulder onto my arm as I'm trying to get into my car. It's not going to happen with this. That's a big improvement. I love it. Some other improvements, we now have a built-in luggage rack strap on here. So if you're going to carry this through an airport on your luggage rack, the handle will go up through here. There are 6 brass rivets that hold it on, so it's not going anywhere. And on the other side of this is a kind of industrial strength ripstop nylon webbing, which is abrasion resistant. So when you do slip the handle up and through there, time after time after time, you're not going to get any kind of wear whatsoever. That's going to basically last forever. So that's a nice aspect to it now. Some people will never employ this. If you're like me, I use this a lot. The magazine pocket or the back pocket, document pocket, ticket pocket if you're traveling, if you still use tickets, and some airlines you do, is secured with a little leather keeper here. This edge has a nice folded piece of leather. Before this was a zippered compartment, so I prefer it like this. The zipper is fine for security, but I'm just not a fan of zippers. Even though it was a nice heavy-duty number 10 YKK zipper that would never fail, just the sound of zzz, zzz, to me, I was not a fan of that. But we've got a nice deep pocket. It's beautifully finished. It is secure as well, so no problem there. Okay. Anchor points for the shoulder strap are still on the back of the bag. I love that. I prefer them here than here on the sides. When they're on the sides like this, your swivel snaps are attached here, and then they kind of rub on this part of the bag, and after a while you really kind of get a really ugly kind of ragged look there. So I do prefer them here on the back for that reason, but the main reason I prefer them on the back is that when you're carrying the bag, the weight of the bag is carried down the back side, and so when you lift the bag kind of wants to go in towards you and hold to you instead of kind of rolling off or heading away from you. Okay. We've got pockets like we had before on the inside of the bag, pockets that we had on the original Heirloom messenger. These are pen pockets. One is much larger now, so if you wanted to put a fountain pen in there or one of those big copper or brass pens, there's plenty of room to do that. This is a normal size pen pocket that's in here. You still have these attachment points on the outside. If you wanted to put a key hook on there, you can. Okay. We're still employing the same construction as the Heirloom messenger, which is kind of a mail bag. So you have this piece of leather here, this particular piece of leather, this is one piece, this is one piece. So it's a 3-piece gusset. It is held with 3 stitch lines, heavy duty stitch lines, and then we've got some brass rivets as well holding it. This is an attachment, extra auxiliary attachment point for whatever you might want to put there. We now have the luggage tag, instead of being on the face, on the storm flap, it's now a removable luggage tag attached to the side of the bag. Veg-tanned leather. There's a place for your ID right there. So that's now on the side of the bag. I kind of prefer that. I think it looks a little nicer. It's a little dressier that way, and I can remove it if I want to. We still have the reinforcement, and these are vegetable tanned, thick leather reinforcements for the bag opening. So there's no fear of the bag ever losing its integrity as you're opening and closing it. We're still employing the use of these quick lever latches. These are brass, heavy-duty brass cast latches. And the Leather Shop's the only company that I have ever seen that attaches these things in a proper way. In other words, these originally were designed for horse collars. And in order for them to work properly, there has to be tension in this direction and tension in that direction to hold these levers closed. And so some makers will just attach these thinking, you know, it's kind of trendy, everybody likes these, let's put it on my bag. And there's not as much thought put into how it's supposed to secure the bag. So some of these, on some of the makers, these are very floppy because there's no skill or forethought into how these are supposed to actually be installed on the bag. And when they're just put on the bag, they can just flop open. When you set the bag down, because there's no tension holding them closed, they'll just flop open and your flap will flop open, and it just drives me crazy. I've had some bags like that. I just can't even use them anymore because it just drives me mad when I set the bag down and this latch flops open and the bag kind of bellows down. So these are installed properly. They used some design skills. They might have used some computer-aided design in figuring out how this is supposed to work properly, but they have done it. We now have 2 of them, and I'll show you what I mean by how secure they are. So we'll open the bag up. So we've got a nice positive latch like that. The flap opens thusly. These will just flop back and down into the original position. This part is what's really been engineered. It's far more heavy duty than it was before, although in the original Heirloom Messenger, there was a nice positive connection with the single latch. And really no other makers out there employ this method. So this particular latch, there's a little piece right here. It's a little point that comes out through this leather strap. That holds this particular part of the latch secure, so it's not just flopping around. When this part just flops around, that latch can just pop open when you set the bag down. So it's not going to happen here. It's heavily reinforced. The attachment point is heavily reinforced using these really heavy-duty brass rivets and actually 3 separate pieces of leather. Those rivets go through 3 separate pieces of leather to attach. So you get a really nice, strong attachment point. When you go to close the bag, you get a nice, positive close on it. That's not going to come undone, even in an empty bag like this. That's how it's supposed to be done. Okay? So the top handle is reinforced. It's a thicker, more comfortable handle than before on the original Heirloom Messenger. So we're using thicker leather, and it's been really reinforced as far as the attachment to the bag. So you can see these stitch lines here. That's where the handle is reinforced on the inside of the bag, and we'll get to that right now. We'll open the bag and take a look on the inside. Okay, so we've got this beautiful hand-dyed bridle leather. They dyed the inside of the leather as well as the out. A nice extra detail, extra step, takes extra time to do it, but it makes the bag so much nicer. In the bag now, here's where the top handle is attached. This piece of leather runs down into the spine of the bag, so it's very much reinforced. The handle's not going to go anywhere. They decided to put a little pen slot in there for you now. So you've got, someone thought, hey, let's make this a little more user-friendly. We've got a pen slot here, and then we also have 2 on this side of the bag. So we've got a removable key leash as well that can go in your pocket or your purse or your glove compartment. So we now have that. And then we end up with a couple extra pen slots. Remember, they're a little larger now, so you can accommodate larger pens. I always carry some extra pens in there in case I lose my primary pen. So as before, we've got the beautifully finished interior. All of the edges are all dressed, they're all turned, they're all tucked, they're all sewn. Nothing is left raw in the bag, including this beautiful front edge here. All of these edges in here, we've got a pocket in a pocket, so we've got this divider here, and then we have this wonderful pocket in a pocket. You can see it right here, the size of it. It's wet form, so it stands out a little bit, so it's easy to put items in and out. I always carry my wallet in that pocket. It goes in and out quite easily, and it'll accommodate pretty much any size wallet that you can carry. You got a divider here. The leather in here is now thicker than it was before. So you've got a divider here to put a laptop in, or iPad, or folders, or papers, or whatever. You've got a pocket in the back that you can carry the same. Your laptop, iPad, whatever. It is secured with a leather strap. The pockets in here have been redesigned, so you now have a deeper pocket here to carry your smartphone. You have a pocket here for your cables or chargers or whatever you want to put in there. The bag now has a wider opening that's completely reinforced, totally reinforced. You're never going to damage this bag by opening and getting into this bag and pulling things in and out. The bag is now wider than it was before, so it's now about 5 inches wide. Before it was a little bit more narrow, so we've got more generous cubic inches in there than we had before. The bottom of the bag is padded. In other words, there are 2 pieces of leather that make up the bottom of the bag. So this stitch line that you see here is where the second bottom is attached on the inside. So we've got a reinforced bottom of the bag. I call it a double bottom bag. They didn't have to do that. It would have worked out just fine to leave that as a single piece of leather. But those extra details really show you how much care and how proud they are of their bags. A lot of makers just leave that as a single leather. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. There are some makers who put padded bottoms in for laptops or just for reinforcement. I tend to favor those makers because their eye to detail is just so much better, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm purchasing a bag. So again, the inside of this bag, you're not going to find an interior of a bag by any maker that is better or more beautiful than the interior of the leather shop's bags. The skill, the quality, the design is just second to none. These tucked ends here, riveted corners, these folded over edges, it's just beautiful. All the edges, the side edges, the front edge, it's all finished off beautifully. And to me, that is a sign of a quality bag maker because they're that proud of their bag. So again, this is the new Messenger, Heirloom Messenger 2. Beautiful, high quality construction. The bag is about 17 inches wide. It's about the same as the original Heirloom Messenger. It's about 11.5 inches tall and about 5 inches wide. As far as weight, it's a little weightier than the original bag, but weight is not as much a consideration in a bag when I have no control over what you're going to put in the bag. So you're going to load the bag up with whatever you need to carry with you, and that's going to determine your ultimate weight. So veg-tanned leather is a little more heavyweight than chrome-tanned leather. That's true because the substance of the leather, it's got far more substance to it than chrome-tanned leather, which is kind of like a sponge in a cross-section. This is a very dense, high-quality leather. It's not been chemically altered to lighten it as chrome-tanned leather is. This is leather that's designed for hard work. This is how the leather they use in saddles, in tack, horse tack. It's designed for a lot of hard work and abuse. That's how this bag is designed. Beautiful bag. The link is below. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them below. Subscribe to the channel. There are going to be some more reviews coming up shortly. And again, I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.